introduce a man. He's been the state representative since 2005. He was elected in 2004, represents the Oconomowoc area, resides in Oconomowoc. He has been most of you have probably known him from being a newscaster, both in Los Angeles and in Illinois. He also was awarded by the Milwaukee Press Club in '99 for investigative reporting. If you recall the Mark Schmera episode, he was keynote with that. He is currently the star of Kill It, Clean It, and Cook It. He is quite the devoted husband, proud father of 2 daughters. It is a great pleasure to introduce my friend and your friend to all, Mr. Joe, State Representative Joel Kleefisch.
Thanks very much. He just called me the star of the show. I like to call myself the fat guy in the middle of the TV screen. So, my name's Joel Kleefisch. My official title is second dude, or father, chauffeur, limousine driver, taxi driver. I actually am really excited to be here, and I consider it quite an honor. Becky wanted to say hello. You know, my wife's, I don't know if you know this, she's the president of the National Republican Lieutenant Governors Association. So, yeah, woman's going places. I taught her everything she knows. So, but she's out right now in Cape Cod. She doesn't have the view we do here in Wisconsin, but she's enjoying herself out there, presiding over her last final meeting for her course as president of that organization. Most people, the first thing they ask when they meet me is, how's your wife? So I usually like to say how my wife is doing. A lot of folks don't come right out and ask, but you know, my wife had cancer at age 35. Had a 3% chance of recurrence after the surgery that could be eliminated with chemotherapy. So she took the chemotherapy, and I just want to let you know, very recently, within the last few months, she had her 5-year all clear. And she's, yes, awesome. It's fantastic. And so she is considered 100% cancer-free and cured of cancer. So I'm thrilled to say that. I'm also thrilled to say that during the whole ordeal, and even during her chemotherapy, she managed to maintain more hair than Jim Doyle and Scott Walker combined. So that was an advantage to her as well. So she's doing great. She wanted me to pass on when I said that I had the opportunity to come speak here. She says, "Really? They wanted you instead of me?" And I said, "Honey, my speeches are loud and short." And she said, "Well, what is that saying about my speeches?" I said, "I don't know. They're too long for me to go to." So she wanted to make sure I said hello to everybody. You know, my wife and I had an extremely interesting life so far, and marriage so far. We've been married 17 years. And we started out, I was a television news reporter at Channel 12 in Milwaukee. Now, I had started in Rockford, Illinois, as a one-man band. And what that means is you go out with the camera on your back to the middle of the night, to the crime scene, in the middle of whatever area it was, you shoot the video, and then you take it back, and the next day you go in and you log the video, write the story, put it together, go out, set up the camera, set up the live truck, stand in front of the camera, do the live report. You do basically every job there is to bring a live broadcast. Now, it's understandable that I had so much work because in 1993, which wasn't all that long ago, I was paid the salary of $12,400 a year to do that. So I actually qualified for food stamps in Illinois. I want you to know I did not take them. But that's how I started in the business. And then I was fortunate enough to get a job up at Channel 12 where I met my beautiful wife. She was an intern at the time. Jerry Taff came to me, if you didn't remember that name, and he says, "Joel, do you remember Rebecca Reed? She interned here last summer. She would like you to ask her out sometime." So I asked her out, and I asked her to a Packer game. Well, she showed up with a notepad. She thought she was coming to be an intern on the Packer game. I said, "Well, I'm not working, but I'm really glad Jerry Taff asked told me you wanted me to ask you out, and she said, I never told him that. So, you know, I had to toast Jerry at our wedding and thank him for giving us better tomorrows. But it wasn't long, thank you. And I'd be remiss that if I didn't mention my two lovely children, one who's in tow tonight, the other who's rehearsing at the Skylight Opera in Milwaukee, where she was just got the role of Violet in the Broadway musical Violet. So I'm very proud of her. And I got to tell you something funny. The little one over here, Violet, whose nickname is Viper, Violet Mary, not to be confused with Violent Mary, her alter ego. No, I tease you, honey. I love you. She says the other day, there's a newspaper article explaining that my older daughter got the role as Violet in the show Violet. And it's going through all the great things. And then it says, and his other daughter, Violet Mary, goes to school. And so it's been a joke around the house, hey Dad, I go to school, I go to school. So I want to tell you how wonderful this little one is over here. Not only is she an incredible singer, funny is actually gets her humor from her mom, so she's much funnier than I am, and obviously her looks too. So thanks for coming along and shooting video and some photos. My little 10-year-old, who is a competitive cheerleader and quite the fantastic gymnast too. It was about a year after my wife and I were married, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was a knock on the door, and we went to the door and opened the door. Now at the time, my wife had gotten a job at Channel 12, and just in a matter of 6 months, she was tossing from the warm studio behind the anchor desk to me freezing my rear end off in a snowbank. So she not only got introduced to the business, but surpassed me in the business within a matter of 6 months. But the police were at our house. The chief walked in, we were asleep, the lieutenant walked in, the sergeant walked in and he said, folks, if you can sit down, I want to talk to you. There's a convicted felon named David Schulze, and we got a call, an emergency call from someone who lives in Okauchee. David Schulze is a convicted felon on a machine gun violation conviction who left a message saying, he believes that Rebecca Kleefisch is talking to him through his television and he's going to come find her and blow her brains out. Now, I'm a new husband. I'm a fairly high anxiety level job in the first place. Television news is no walk in the park. And I'm faced with thinking that my wife has to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:45 in the morning, drive from our house to downtown Milwaukee by herself. We didn't have an attached garage, and she's supposed to get out of her car and walk into the station and remember at this time, now whether she would have made this choice or not, she did not have the ability to protect herself with a firearm. So here we are faced with the police in our living room telling us that there has been an imminent threat against our lives, but you may not protect yourself with a firearm. You may not even have that protection. You may not possess pepper spray at this time, if you remember. So, I set up a closed-circuit television system. Her alarm went off. I woke up. I watched that television system, watched her walk from our driveway into our garage, watched the car back out of the garage, drove, stayed awake, called her every single day she went to work. Then I was supposed to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work myself. Well, needless to say, there were many, many, many anxiety-riddled sleepless nights that took a heck of a lot of time off of my life if I look back. So what's my point? Whether my wife would have felt comfortable carrying a firearm is really not relevant. The reality of it is, at that point when I was a television news reporter, before I had ever worked for the legislature, before I had ever run for the legislature, something dawned on me. We live in a society, in a state, and a country that was set up by people who said, you have a right to your constitutional right to bear arms and protect yourself. And here I was feeling like I had no way to protect my new wife. And for those of you who strongly support the Second Amendment, God bless you and thank you for being here, but try to put yourself in that place for a minute of knowing, you know, there's no there was no protect your house doctrine, castle doctrine, protect your family doctrine, nothing at the time. Knowing that if I'm watching that closed circuit TV, somebody approaches my wife, I go downstairs, open the door, shoot him with a shotgun. Who's going to prison? I'm going to prison. So I want to tell you what that's leading me to is to help you to understand. When you look at it and you look at the superficial business we do in the Capitol, you say, God darn it, nothing's getting done, nothing's getting done, nothing's getting done. But if you look at the steps we have made and the changes we've made and the incremental improvements we've made, it will blow your mind. And guess what? I never heard that on the media. I never heard it on the media. Imagine that. From the time I was elected as a legislator, this is just the list I came up with 5 minutes while I was sitting here. Now I have the honor of being the criminal justice chairman. I co-authored a bill that allows concealed carry. I lead authored a bill that allows the concealed carry of automatic weapons, automatic knives. Not automatic firearms, automatic knives. We have concealed carry now, crossover for veterans, automatic from other states. Automatic concealed carry for veterans who are stationed here, not just who live here. We have concealed carry for retired law enforcement on school grounds. So now we have force multipliers. Before, a former cop couldn't carry a gun on school grounds. Now listen, I get it that in the gamut of gun supporters, there's a wide breadth. And some say, well, I don't want police to have a right that I don't have yet. But folks, I'm telling you, take a look at the way Democrats do it. Little steps. Little steps until they own the playground. So it's time we as conservatives and Republicans start to take a look at the way they've done it successfully and do that ourselves. And I'm here to tell you today, the legislature that has been in place since we took over the legislature and the governor's office has been doing it. Uncased firearms in your car. Now something as simple as that, and something as simple as the difference between hunting and firearms rights, they cross over each other all the time. If you've got a cased firearm in your car, you open your door and there's a bear charging you, how are you going to protect yourself if that firearm's still in a case? You couldn't used to lean your gun up against your vehicle. How ridiculous is that? So instead you're searching around. I remember, where am I going to set this on the ground? So it's much more dangerous to have a gun sitting on the ground that can be kicked and go off on the ground than it is leaning up against a car. These might seem little things, but in the grand scheme of things, where we've come in the last 8 years should boggle your mind. In the state of Wisconsin, the second to the last state that allowed concealed carry. And let me tell you another secret that very few people know and understand. Not all the Democrats are fighting us all the way on this. Very slowly, as we get into their ears, they start to understand the value of protecting rights. Lena Taylor voted for the concealed carry bill.
Wow.
How many people in here even knew that? Now, a few of you probably knew that.
I didn't know that.
Lena Taylor voted for the concealed carry bill, and guess what she did last year? Some people know
She
this.
got a permit.
Yes. She went with her son turkey hunting with me. And she and her son shot 2 turkeys on a mentored hunt with me. This is a person who never probably would have taken up a recreational activity with a firearm, who was giddy over the fact that she and her son shot their Thanksgiving turkeys.
Wow.
Don't give up, folks. Let me tell you, as an extremely conservative person, don't give up on the fact that sometimes, over time, logic can win. Logic and a little foresight and a little nudging can win over time. This will blow your mind. I got approached by Therese Berceau. Does anybody know that name, Therese Berceau? She's notably, well, Don Pridemore probably does. Therese Perceau is one of the most liberal members, if not the most liberal member of the Wisconsin State Assembly. She comes up to me last session. She says, Joel, I want to work on a bill with you. I said, okay, let's do it. I love good ideas. I don't care who they come from, folks. I honestly don't care who they come from. Therese Perceau says, I would like to do a tax exemption for purchases of gun safes. I said, absolutely. Let's do it. Biometric and everything else. Because, folks, let me ask you a question. What happens when someone purchases a gun safe? What do they want to do with the gun safe? Fill it! And they're starting so slowly to come around those corners and understand this is not an us versus them. This is an us, law-abiding citizens versus them, non-law-abiding citizens. You'll never guess who I teamed up with to pass a bill last session. LaTanya Johnson from Milwaukee.
Wow.
LaTanya Johnson came to me and said, Joel, I'm so tired of people who are honest citizens taking the rap for bad people who use guns. I said, well, we certainly agree on that. We wrote a bill that stiffens the penalties and makes it a felony for a felon who commits a crime with a gun. So automatically 10 years in prison. No judge in Milwaukee allowing the revolving door. Nobody saying you're having probation. Automatically, if you're a convicted felon and you use a gun to commit a crime, you're going away for 10 years to think about it. LaTanya Johnson was the co-lead author. She came out of her caucus and she looked frazzled. She said, I don't think they understand yet, but I'm working on it. Well, guess what? We had a whole bunch of Democrats vote for that bill when it came to the floor.
Good for all that.
So where does this put you? If you're ever out there and you think for 1 minute that contacting your legislator is a waste of time, let me tell you, legislators are sometimes scared of their own shadows. They get 10 letters from somebody about something and they're panicking. Don't be afraid. I had 23 bills signed into law last session. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm not proud of that. I wouldn't be proud of that if they were all new laws and new legislation. But about 19 of them were repeals of old bad laws. And you know what? I got Democrats to go along with those repeals. 16 of those bills that repealed laws had Democrat lead authors to repeal old bad junk. So I got to tell you, and I'm going to ask for your thoughts and prayers, because Robin Boss and I have had some very long discussions, and there are some groups who are asking that I try to convince Robin to appoint me as the Natural Resources Chairman this next time around. And I think I'd do a fantastic job, and I'm excited about it. It'd be real tough to leave criminal justice, but I'd only do it if I could stay on the Criminal Justice Committee. But those are the two committees that deal with firearms and deal with your right to own them and police rights to enforce the laws that are on the books. So please keep me in your thoughts when it comes to those appointments. And if you want to give the leadership a wink and a nod when you see them, that'd be all right too. Don't give up the fight. Don't think for a minute that they will not very slowly, very methodically try to reduce your magazines from 30 to 10. Try to reduce your magazines from 10 to 3. Try to reduce your semi-automatics from 3-pound trigger weight to 10-pound trigger weight. Don't think that every little minuscule bit that takes something away from your rights to protect yourself and your family will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the most important thing coming up here in November, the most important thing is that you remember those people, those powerful people we put into place for the rest of their lives make the decisions as to whether the laws we pass will stand or fall. But beyond that, if we start losing out and not paying attention to the top, what do you think drops off underneath? We lose Congress, we lose our state Senate, we lose our state assembly, and I hate to say it, Newt Gingrich got picked on for saying it, George Bush got picked on for saying it. If you don't have the majority, you got nothing. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for coming out. It's been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.